telescoping. If you haven't heard of telescoping, I'll just give you a little brief explanation. Telescoping means that a student can test out of a grade level in math. Those tests are offered at 2 different times during the summer, and that whole process is supported by our math department and our assessment department. So it's really outside of GT services. It's for any student in GCISD who has the capability to go ahead and move on. So we have lots of kids throughout the district who move up a grade or even 2 during the math period. Therefore, most campuses offer math at the same time, like first thing in the morning, so that movement can happen. Then we have some who travel, to various middle schools as 4th or 5th graders, and that is, like I said, not part of GT services, but most GT kids are involved with telescoping. Our science being accelerated then propels our kids into integrated physics, chemistry, and biology before they ever leave middle school. So you can see that the academic challenge is far greater for the Aspire kids. If you're interested in knowing more about the Aspire Academy, there's an event on February 13th called the Expo, and it represents all of our special programs across the district. So dual language will be there, Aspire will be there, STEM will be there, pre-K, AVID, lots of different areas where you can just wander around these different tables and talk to teachers and students and see work samples and ask questions and learn more. So if you have an interest in the Aspire Academy, I highly recommend that you attend that event. We'll also have special sessions where we'll go through an entire presentation that's targeted only for Aspire, okay? But if you're interested in Aspire, you're still going to refer during this window that we're talking about. And we'll talk about dates here in a minute. Your first step would be to identify as GT and then to indicate Aspire interest through the process that we're going to talk about in the next few slides, okay?
So here's the part you pay for. If you're ready to refer your child for GT testing, we're ready to test them. We'll begin at the end of the month. But here's kind of how you're going to go through the testing and the parts that you need to fill out, so you'll know what we're going to be doing. The students can be referred by you or a teacher or an administrator on their campus or a counselor. And then we're going to go and get as much data as we can to find out as much as we can about these children so we can see if their needs are being met in the regular classroom or if they need, some extra services. So whenever we come to get the kids, we will get a group of kids at a time. We try not to get large groups. We want these scores to be as high as possible, so we get the groups that will come in and we get the kids comfortable in the room. We make sure that, they sometimes don't know us. So we want the scores to be as high as possible. So what we do is we spend some time with them, getting to know them. We'll do some warm-up activities to make them feel comfortable. And then we'll begin the group testing. After we do the group testing and we have the data, then we will fill out that data on one page and have a folder, and then we'll take it to committee, and the committee is made up of teachers and GT specialists and administrators, and they will look at the folder and look at the data that's been collected, and then determine the placement to see if the child does need some extra services. And then at the end, you'll be notified. A letter will go home. And the letter will either say, yes, the child qualifies for these services, or no, not at this time. And of course, we test every year. So if for some reason the child doesn't qualify and you want to test again the next year, you always can. There. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is fill out a referral. And those referrals are online right now. They're available. I'll show you how to get there. But you can also pick them up at the front office at your school. It's probably easier for you just to fill them out online, but they're available either way. The parent permission and inventory will be the part that you fill out. There'll be some questions on there. I'll show you one in just a minute so you'll know what it looks like. But there'll be some questions for you to fill out so we can see some things that you notice in your children that maybe you wouldn't see if you didn't tell us about. We also ask for teachers, their classroom teachers, to fill out some information so that we can see how they're doing in the regular classroom. And then, of course, the testing that I'll be doing, or whoever the GT specialist is on your campus will be doing. And then there's a part, it's number 6, it's sometimes the testing, even though it is very objective and it's part of the data collection that really is most important, there's sometimes we still can't see the whole kid. So what we do is we do some critical and creative thinking activities with them so we can get a bigger picture of what's going on. And then we also could, we still aren't sure, we could call a kid in for an interview, or we could look at some of the portfolios, maybe their e-portfolio that they have in their classroom, or some work samples that the teacher may have. Okay, so the most important part of our testing, and the part that takes the longest, is the standardized tests. And these tests are nationally normed, so that it's comparing your child to kids the same age across the country. And we are going to look at standardized testing that measures their aptitude and their achievement. Aptitude would be the ability to learn, and then the achievement is how much they have learned or their performance in the classroom now. Sorry, you want me to go back? I know you were taking a picture. Okay, and then the second part, what I was just talking about, was more subjective, but it's like, for instance, the part you fill out is what you think your child, how do you think that they, are, what kinds of things are they exhibiting that would make them need these services that we offer? And the teacher, too, would show us some things like that. So we have the teacher checklist, the parent inventory, and then we gather those things, too. Okay, this is the part you'll be doing, and it's the parent inventory, and actually this is a parent inventory. It looks just like this. And so you'll fill this out, and there's a little tricky part to it. And so I'm going to show you that part so you don't have problems with it. You're going to, if you look down there at the underlined part, it says, for any X in column C, please provide an example of how your child demonstrates the characteristic. The reason that's underlined is because as you read the indicators, you're either going to mark A, B, or C. And sometimes people that don't read the directions write A on all of them, and say, this can't be true. But A means they don't display it at all. And then B is sometimes they do, or they are the exact same as, some of their maybe other children that you've seen their same age. But then C is when they display this characteristic on an advanced level, or more often than children of their own age. And so that's the one we're looking for. And if you happen to mark a C on some, and you really won't mark them on all of them, because I've never seen in my 20-something years of teaching a child that would have all C's all the way down, but there could be one out there. But the C's, what happens is we need you to tell us a little bit more about that. So let me show you on the next page. So here's an example. The characteristic we're looking at is learns quickly and recalls facts easily, has a very sharp memory. So if you were to mark C, like this person did, then you would write underneath it, just type in an example. For instance, remembers the grocery list without being it being written on paper. If you have a child that does that? So if you have if you mark C, you must have a reason why you mark C. So obviously we'd like you to give us some examples of that. If you have one like an unusually advanced vocabulary, and if you can't think of any examples of that, then just mark B. Or if you think it's below, then you would mark A. And then, so you would go on through. But anything that you mark C, as you notice over there, just give us an example so we'll know why you mark C. the testing is completed, then the committee will meet and the committee will look at the data, and a campus-based committee whose members have received gifted education, so everyone on the committee is qualified to look at this and interpret the data. We'll consider all of the data collected to determine if the placement for gifted program services is in the student's best educational interest through a preponderance of evidence. Now what that means is when we look at all the data, we need to see a lot of data pointing towards the fact that their child's needs are not being met in the regular classroom, that the child does indeed demonstrate giftedness. Okay, so here's the testing calendar. We're getting close to starting taking the referrals. If you happen to go online now and fill it out, nothing bad will happen. If you go home and do it while you're thinking about it, it'll just sit there and wait until February 13th. But we actually are taking them beginning 13th through the 24th. I have a couple already turned in it, so I've already been in there and peeked at them and seen them. And then on the 24th, it's kind of a big deal that you get it in on the 24th. And let me tell you why. That's a Friday. And then we start testing. The 24th Friday? 24th Friday? We start testing that next Monday. And it's really difficult once we start testing to add another one. So it's better to get it in early. As a matter of fact, it's important to get it in early rather than late. So we will start the testing on February 27th. And at those dates, we can't tell you exactly what the testing schedule will look like because every campus has, they may have an assembly or they may have something going on, a field trip, something like that we don't know it'll be at 8 o'clock on Monday or a certain time. We kind of have to work with the classroom teacher schedules to make sure that's a great time. We would never want to pull them out of testing, for testing if they're about to do something they've been looking forward to for a long time because they won't want to come. So we want to get them when they are excited to come and happy to come so they can do their best. So we'll wrap up the testing about March 10th. And things happen. Sometimes a group of kids will be sick and then we'll have to, if something were to come out. One time we had a big snowstorm and the testing lasted a few extra days. But if everything goes as planned, we should finish about March 10th. And we'll be finished, and then we'll have the committee meetings, and then the parents will be notified in April. And I know that sounds like a long time from now, but we don't start services for these kids until next fall. So April is pretty early if you think about it. You'll know in April before they start them in August. And those letters will be mailed in the U.S. Postal Service mail, so you'll get them in your actual mailbox. And then the Aspire notifications, if you happen to check Aspire on there, on your referral packet, because you're interested in it, those notifications will be sent home later, a little bit later. So if you start hearing your friends are saying, I got something, and you don't have anything, if you're applying for Aspire, maybe because it just takes just a little bit longer. Is that right? Okay. Okay. Now it's time for questions. So if you have any questions, you can talk to us if you need to talk to us today, or you'll get better probably questions answered if you actually talk to your GT specialist on campus. If you have specific things about your child, who may not know your child, and we will be glad to talk to any of you. Here are the specialists at the campuses. You need to write those down. The address would just be the first name dot the last name at gcisd.net. So for instance, I'm number 4, kim.gale at gcisd.net. And you can get a hold of us anytime that way. That's it? Is that it?
And we will be posting this, well,